How's it going, everybody? This is S3Tide, and this is going to be Week 5 prediction video. I'm really busy right now. I have a bunch to do this week, but I'm going to try to go ahead and make this video. I just made the Week 4 recap video. And I had a great weekend, like I said in the recap video, and I really don't have I don't have enough time to make this video, but I'm going to try to. I don't have any scores written down, so I'm just going to try to think off the top of my head what score to say for each game. Let's go ahead and get started. We have Thursday, the primetime game, number 16 South Florida at Pittsburgh. South Florida's undefeated so far this season. They're actually having a pretty good season. They're ranked number 16th. They're moving on up there. I believe they'll be undefeated at the end of this game too. Pittsburgh's not having a great season. They lost to Iowa and they lost to Notre Dame last week, and that's slugfest. I believe B.J. Daniels is going to have a game against Pittsburgh. I think it'll be Pittsburgh actually has a pretty good defense, probably one of the better defenses in the Big East, but I still believe South Florida gets some points on them. And Pittsburgh, they always have that traditional run-on-you offense, but it hasn't been doing that great this year. But I still believe South Florida wins about, say, 24-17 over Pittsburgh. Moving on to Saturday's games, this is going to be an interesting game. Number 14 Texas A&M versus number 18 Arkansas. Both teams are coming off a loss. Texas A&M lost to Arkansas lost to Alabama last week, and Texas A&M lost to Oklahoma State. That was a closer game than the Alabama-Arkansas game. Both teams are really good teams. They just came in bad luck last week playing against their really good teams in Oklahoma State and Alabama. Both teams have great offenses. Texas A&M was just announced today that they will be in the SEC for next season. I think it's activated July 2nd or June 2nd of the summer, but I believe this is going to be a matchup you'll see in years to come because Texas A&M is going to be in the SEC, but I do believe Arkansas beats Texas A&M about 38-27. Moving on, Minnesota at Michigan. Not too much to say about this game. Minnesota's been struggling really bad this year. Struggling so bad that their coach had a seizure on the sidelines, which is not what you want. But I believe Denard Robinson and the Wolverines are going to roll over Minnesota 35-20. Now let's make that 35-17. Mississippi State at Georgia. Both teams have 2 losses on the year. Actually, I think they both have 2. Sorry. Georgia lost to South Carolina and Boise. Mississippi State lost to LSU and Auburn. Both teams are basically evenly matched. Both run the ball a lot, even though it's 2 different offenses. Georgia runs the traditional pro style. Mississippi State runs more of the Florida with Tebow offense with Dan Mullen, a head coach. This is going to be a real interesting game. And I believe Mississippi State actually wins this game, even though they struggled last week against LA Tech. I believe Mississippi State will win 26-18 over Georgia. Penn State at Indiana. I don't even know why I just said this game because Indiana's terrible. It's probably the worst they've ever been in the program history. And that's a lot saying when they've had Lee Corso in the past as their head coach. So they're pretty bad. They lost last week to North Texas. North Texas is predominantly one of the worst teams in the country. So moving on, let's see another game. Texas Tech at Kansas. Both these teams have been struggling this year. Texas Tech about lost to Nevada last week. Oh yeah, my bad. For the Penn State Indiana game, I think Penn State will roll 26-10. Here we go, Texas Tech, Kansas. Both teams have been struggling. Texas Tech about lost to Nevada. Kansas has been beat really bad the games they've lost this year. Both teams at low points in the program's history. Both teams have terrible defenses, to be honest. But I still think Texas Tech will pull out the victory because Kansas' pass defense is so poor. I believe this will be a high-scoring game. I believe Texas Tech will win 42-30 over Kansas. Now this game is going to be a big game for the academies. This game is Air Force and Navy. This game is going to be played at Navy. Both teams always run that option offense. Both teams are basically every year about evenly matched. But I do have to say, since it's at Navy in such a big game, I think the home crowd will play a big factor in the outcome of the game. I believe Navy will win 24-14 over Air Force. Moving on, Kentucky at LSU. Kentucky's terrible this year. LSU's now the #1 in the AP poll. They've been having a great great year so far. They have probably the best defense in the country. Probably LSU and Alabama's basically tied for the best defense, and that's not good because Kentucky probably has one of the worst offenses in the country. So I believe Kentucky will lose this game. I believe Kentucky will get shut out. But no, I'll say Kentucky will put 3 on the board. I believe LSU will win, let's say 28-3 over Kentucky. Moving on. Auburn at North Carolina. No, Auburn at South Carolina, sorry. Auburn, they have probably one of the worst defenses in the country, and that's a lot saying because they are in the SEC, which is most likely or more often the better defenses in the country, and Auburn probably has the worst, or one of the worst. South Carolina, Steven Garcia, basically, they struggled really bad last week. He had 3 interceptions in the first quarter against Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt does have a really good secondary, but Auburn, just terrible in basically every aspect in the defensive side of the ball. Now on the offensive side of the ball, they're always going to be explosive, especially with Gus Malzahn, an offensive coordinator. But I believe South Carolina does win this game. I believe they win about 35-21 over Auburn. Next game, Baylor at Kansas State. Kansas State had a big win last week. They beat Miami 28-24. Pretty close game, and Miami's not that bad this year. But sorry about that. But Baylor's having a great year so far. They're still undefeated. They have Robert Griffin at quarterback, probably one of the most explosive players in the country, especially at the quarterback position. I believe Baylor will roll in this game. I believe Baylor will win 35-20 over Kansas State. Moving on, Georgia Tech at North Carolina State. North Carolina State's really struggling this year. They were beat up last week against Cincinnati on a Thursday night game. Georgia Tech had a big win over North Carolina, and they're still undefeated. And I believe Georgia Tech, after this game, will still be undefeated. I believe they'll beat North Carolina State 28-10. Moving on, Arizona at USC. I don't have much to say about this game because I hate USC, and all I want to say is Arizona, I hope you beat them. And I believe they will. Hopefully, anyway. Moving on, Michigan State at Ohio State. This is going to be a big game. Michigan State, they've had a pretty good year this year. Their only loss this year is against Notre Dame, and that came to a surprise to everybody because Michigan State was favored by some people to win the Big Ten, and when you lose to Notre Dame, who's not having a great year themselves, that's not going to help your case out much. But Ohio State, they've been struggling really bad this year. They came close to losing to Toledo a few weeks ago. They lost to Miami. They struggled kind of against Colorado last week. So I do believe Michigan State does win this game. I believe because Michigan State has one of the better defenses in the country. The offense is where the problem lies with them. So this game, I think, is going to be, for the most part, a close game, but it'll be decided by which defense has the better day. But I do believe Michigan State wins the game 17-10 over Ohio State. Moving on, Clemson at Virginia Tech. This is going to be a big game, especially deciding the winner of the ACC conference. Both teams undefeated so far. I didn't even know this game was this week, to be honest. But it's actually a really big game for both teams. Whoever wins this game will probably win the ACC. Clemson's coming off a big victory against Auburn 2 weeks ago and off of the victory against Florida State last week. Virginia Tech, not sure if they've beaten anybody relevant this year for the most part. This game is at Virginia Tech in that hostile environment. But this is going to be a really close game. But I do believe Clemson wins and upsets Virginia Tech. I believe Clemson will win 28-24 Virginia Tech in a very close game. Moving on. In this game, it's going to be my upset of the week. Iowa State, so far, they've had a pretty good season. They beat Iowa. They right now are 3-0, still undefeated. They beat Iowa and Connecticut and Northern Iowa. Each game's been really close. They almost lost. They only beat Northern Iowa 20-19. Beat Iowa in overtime, and they beat Connecticut. Sorry about that again. They beat Connecticut 24-20. So each game's been really close. They're still undefeated, and I actually believe they'll beat Texas this week in a really close game, maybe in overtime. But it's at Iowa State. Maybe Texas is overlooking them a little bit. But I do believe Iowa State will get the victory and win 21-17 over Texas. So that's probably my upset of the week. Moving on, Alabama at Florida. This is going to be a big game, and it sucks because I'm going to miss it because I'm going to be at homecoming. But you got to do what your girl wants to do, and she wants me to go to homecoming, so I'm going. I'm not going to miss my homecoming for a football game. As much as I love football, I'm not going to do that. This is going to be a big game for both teams. This is going to be a really big test for Alabama. They held Arkansas to 14 points last week, so if they can do that against Arkansas, I'm pretty sure they can do that against Florida. Florida, their first year under Charlie Weiss as offensive coordinator and Will Muschamp as the head coach. Florida's still undefeated this year, as Alabama is. Both have really good defenses. Offenses are basically ran the same way. Florida might like to throw it around a little bit more with John Brantley at quarterback than Alabama does with AJ. This is really going to be AJ's first big SEC test on the road at the Swamp, a hostile environment. That's why I believe Florida will keep it close. But I do believe Alabama win this game. I believe they win 20. Do I say does or do win? But whatever. Sorry. I believe Alabama wins this game 21-17 over Florida. I believe it's going to be really close, mainly because it's at the Swamp. But I do believe Alabama wins and roll Tide. Moving on. Nebraska at Wisconsin, probably going to be the game of the week. Both are really good teams. Both teams can, whoever wins this game might win probably is going to win the Big Ten and might go on and play in the national championship game. So this game has a bunch of hype surrounding it. Both great teams. Both have great defenses. Both have explosive players at the quarterback position. Wisconsin has Russell Wilson, as Nebraska has Taylor Martinez. They're both explosive in their own specific ways. Both can run. Both can throw. I believe Russell Wilson's a little better of a polished passer than Taylor Martinez is. But Taylor Martinez can get you the ball. He has an awkward throw motion, but that really doesn't matter as long as he gets the job done. And he does that. As I said, both can run. But I do give Russell Wilson the edge here. And with that said, I do believe Wisconsin will win. It's at Wisconsin in their hostile environment. So I do believe Wisconsin wins in a pretty close game. I believe they win 31-28 over Nebraska. I guess that is it. Yep, that's the rest of the relevant games for the week. So guys, this has been the Week 4 prediction video. Sorry if it sucked. It's probably the worst weekend of my life. Sorry. But I guess that's it. I won't have any more videos out this week more than likely because it's probably going to be the busiest week of my life by far. So wish me luck, guys, and I will see you probably next week in Roll Tide.